Amen. It is a beautiful Sunday, so I'm so grateful that you're willing to spend a little bit more of your Sunday here in the space, and that you're part of welcoming our partners and an organization that we really believe in here at Grace, and are so blessed to get to house at least a portion of your impact and ministry in Apple Valley and beyond. So I'm sure some of you feel like you have like a good level of familiarity with the link, but one of the things we've heard in the last couple months is like, what exactly goes on up there? Or who again is it that like has space? And that comes from a genuine place of just curiosity and wanting to know more about who you are and what you do, and also the ways in which we could partner more deeply with you in the weeks, months, and years to come. So I will turn it over now. If you guys would just be willing to introduce yourselves, tell us who you are, and then we'll dive in. Okay.
Sure, so thank you so much for being here today. My name is Beth Holger, and I'm the CEO of the Link, but I wanted to quickly introduce my amazing team, who you'll get to meet a little bit more throughout the presentation.
Thank you. My name is Lucas Dugan. Oh, should I stand up? Sorry. Awkwardly sitting in the chair. I am a FIP case manager, so also known as a Future Independent Pathways case manager. So basically I go into the Dakota County schools, and I help youth that are experiencing homelessness or some type of vulnerability, and they need services. So that's what I do, and I also help upstairs on the drop-in center, the C.O.R.E drop-in center as well.
Thanks for being here, everybody. My name is Laura Phelps. I'm actually the program manager for our C.O.R.E program upstairs. So we have our drop-in center, we have a hotel shelter program, case management, whether you're in school or out of school or in our hotel program, we have a lot of supportive, concerned adults that are there to help guide youth through whatever struggle they're going through. So thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Michelle. Some of you already know my face. I've been working upstairs for the past 9 years when the drop-in opened. I am the case manager that goes out into the community, so a mobile case manager that works with youth that are sleeping outside or in cars or couch hopping. My job is 101,000 different things. From keeping our young people safe, to making sure they're fed, to making sure they have all the vital documents, any mental health, immigration, drug or alcohol needs, probation requirements, pretty much everything and everything. So if you guys have any questions, I'll be around later.
You're a hot mama.
Good morning. My name is Tiana Eugene, and I am the Housing and Services Division Director here at the Link. And I oversee our Housing and Service Division, which you'll get more overview from Beth. But I do have a partner as well. His name is James, and so we do oversee this division together.
Thank you all so much. I just wanted to make sure I feel like, I know I'm a little biased, but I feel like I have the best team in the whole homeless youth field, so I just wanted to make sure to honor them. And then also I'm happy to have my family here today and my junior Link staff member. So we'll just give, I'm so thankful today. Thank you, Pastor Sarah, for the introduction and for having us. And I know that it's very nice out, so thank you for being here today. Okay, let's see. Okay, there we go. Okay, technology's not my brain. Okay, so my favorite thing to talk about, aside from my son Axel, is the Link. But I'm going to try to be brief because I'm so excited that you'll get a tour of the actual drop-in center that we're thankful to partner with Grace Church on upstairs. So the Link was founded way back in 1991 by two community leaders, Jim Marshall and Oscar Reed, who also happen to be very amazing football players and played for the Minnesota Vikings during the Purple People Eater era. And when they were done with the NFL, they wanted to do something specifically to help Black young people in North Minneapolis that were getting recruited to get involved in crime or being victimized by crime or struggling with poverty and homelessness. So they founded just the two of them as volunteers, founded what they call the Professional Sports Linkage, and then since that time, we have grown quite a bit, and we dropped the name with their blessing down to just the Link. So now we're called just the Link, or the Link. And we have 3 different areas of programming for young people, but they align really well. So we have what we call our Youth Advocacy Division, which I'll talk about in a minute, that provides juvenile justice alternative programs. So basically alternatives to incarcerating youth who have done different levels of crime. And then we also have Housing and Homeless Services Division, which we'll get into a lot. And then our Safe Harbor Division, which provides specialized shelter, housing, and services for youth who have been victims of sex trafficking. And this is just a picture of our headquarters in North Minneapolis. And we are still rooted in North Minneapolis, but we've obviously grown. We're so happy to be out in Dakota County. As a side note, I've been working with youth experiencing homelessness for 22 years. And when I first started, there was literally no services for youth experiencing homelessness in Dakota County or the surrounding suburban areas. And I remember going to meetings all the time with officials from Dakota County who are no longer in office or remain nameless. They would say things like, "We don't have youth who are homeless out here." And I was like, well, I'm pretty sure, because I was working in youth shelter in Minneapolis, pretty sure we had a youth dropped off by the Egan police last night, and it was an Egan police car, so pretty sure that's Dakota County. So I was like that person agitating, saying, yes, they are out here. And fast forward to today, we have such a continuum of support out here from all of the community partners, and we're very thankful for that, but it wasn't always that way, so I just want to say thank you, because we've really grown a lot out here in Dakota County and the suburbs, which is so exciting. Our mission is to work with youth and families to overcome the impacts of poverty and social injustice, and our values are youth, inclusion, quality, and advancement. And then I think I just want to mention that Minnesota has so many amazing nonprofits, but I think one of the things that sets the Link apart is that we are youth and adult-led. So a lot of nonprofits or businesses are led only by adults, but at the Link we know and we value youth voice, so we are youth and adult-led in partnership. So what that means is we do have a traditional board of directors with attorneys and people from different corporations, but we also have a former program participant that sits on our traditional board. She's in her 30s now, doing her thing. Amazing, working for the city of Minneapolis. But then we also have 3 youth advisory boards, which are made up of youth with lived experience of homelessness, sex trafficking, or involved in the juvenile justice system. And then those 3 youth advisory boards help us to co-design all of our programs, including C.O.R.E. So literally, the C.O.R.E. drop-in center here and all our programs up here were co-designed by youth. They named it C.O.R.E. because it's in Apple Valley, so they thought that was... And it does, no, I'm serious. And then the other thing they like to do, which I cannot remember, maybe learn this, but each letter stands for something, that they thought of. But that's why they named it C.O.R.E. and they helped decorate it, set it up. And we've had throughout the years some youth internships and things like that there. But yeah, so all of our, a lot of people say to me, oh, Beth, you all do such great work. And I'm like, well, that's because we listen to the experts. So even though I've worked in the field of youth homelessness and with trafficked youth for over 20 years, the trends and things always change. And so it's always, I'm no expert, we aren't, it's the youth are, and so we're always listening to them on what's gonna work and how we should set up our program. So we do that, we do a process with them where we meet with them to design the program, and then we apply for the money and the grants for that model. And then we have them help, once we get the funding to start, we help them design the space, they sit in on interviews for the staff, they come with us to the Capitol to work to reduce and end youth homelessness and trafficking and reform juvenile justice. So they are amazing leaders, and I'm sure you'll meet some of them at some point. But this is a picture of some of them at a press conference with us last year at the Capitol. Yeah.
So are they do they volunteer for that work, or are they part of your staff, or how does that?
No, so that's a great question. So they advocated to be paid staff, of course, right? Yeah. So they are, so we've always had it set up so that they're part-time staff members, so they get paid the same hourly rate as our entry-level youth specialist staff, which is $22 an hour. And then we have 2 required meetings for them a month, but then they can participate in a lot of other hours at the link or in the community with us. So it's a really great job. And then many of them end up wanting to work full-time at the link, so it's kind of a good starting point. So a lot of our staff are youth that used to be in our programs, which is pretty great too. And speaking of our programs, so our juvenile justice alternative programs, these are based in Hennepin County, but I just wanted to bring them up because they're very successful. We have five different programs, and then we will breathe. So all of our programs, what I will say is, I'll start with the Youth Connection Center is our largest juvenile justice alternative program. It's downtown Minneapolis in the Public Safety Building, and it provides a 24/7 place where any law enforcement within Hennepin County can drop off a youth between the ages of 10 and 17 for a low-level or status offense or a car theft. Not carjacking, but car theft. And so they can get dropped off there, and then what we do is we provide a trauma-informed youth response, so then that officer can go about his or her day, and then we work with the youth because we know almost always, if not always, they're doing these crimes because of they're trying to survive. There's something hard going on in their life that they're struggling with, and so if we can help support them and find out what the underlying reasons that they're getting involved in juvenile crime are, then guess what? What we find is that over 80% of the youth do not recidivate or do another crime within 2 years. So Hennepin County helps us to track that data, so it really works. So I get really annoyed with some of the news stories that are going on right now because it does not depict the youth right. So the youth are actually quite amazing people. They're going through a lot of struggles, and once they get supported and the help that they need, we find that they don't recidivate. And so that is very true, and we know that because we work with these youth every day. But so our Marshall Reed, that's the Youth Connection Center. And then the Marshall Reed Youth Center and POWER. Marshall Reed Youth Center is named after our founders, and it's for boys that have done higher degree offenses than those coming into our Youth Connection Center. So they're oftentimes gang involved. They've had higher degree assault or weapons possession charges, drug possession charges, or sometimes carjacking. And they come in and it's like a court-ordered after-school program. But again, it's formed in a very trauma-informed restorative justice approach. And it's a wonderful program for 14 to 17-year-old boys. And then POWER is like that, but it's for girls. And again, POWER, I remember what this, because the youth designed it, right? So POWER stands for Positive Opportunities for Women of Every Race. And so it's just like our Marshall Reed Youth Center, basically, but it's for girls. It's gender-specific for girls. And then our Community Navigator program is another program that is court-ordered for youth from Hennepin County, and it's a restorative justice model, but it's just one-on-one. They don't have the after-school groups with it. And then We Will Breathe is a youth-led racial justice group. So the youth at the link approached me saying, what we really want to do, there's all these adult racial justice initiatives, but we want a youth one. And so we decided, okay, that sounds like a good idea. Applied for funding from the Minneapolis Foundation, got our first funding, and started this, 4 years ago maybe, and it's led by Louis Blaze, who used to be one of our youth advocacy, or he was in our Marshall Reed Youth Center program when he was 16, and now he's 24, so he comes back and works with us. And then School Matters is for youth that have been truant from school. Okay, and then our Housing and Services, Homeless Services Division, it's huge, but I'm going to try to break it down. And I'm not going to talk too much about the Dakota County programs because we have people that are going to speak to it much better than I could. So just to say, I started out as working in youth shelter and as a street outreach worker, so I'm really excited to say that we have a great street outreach program led by Zach Wolfgram. And what street outreach is we go out into the community where the youth are telling us that youth are basically hanging out at, who are experiencing homelessness or trafficking. And so we go out and provide a very non-judgmental approach to providing them whatever they need help with in that moment, like crisis supplies, crisis intervention, and also just work on building up a relationship with them so that we can help get them into, in Dakota County, to C.O.R.E, but in Minneapolis, into the links other services, shelter, housing, things like that. I'm really proud to say we have overnight street outreach workers, and we have a partnership with the Metro Transit, so we have 2 outreach workers dedicated just to light rail. And C.O.R.E Drop-In Center we are going to visit soon. And then we also have, like Laura mentioned, we have a hotel shelter program out here in Dakota County. So we operate out of 2 hotels, and that's for 18 to 24-year-olds who are experiencing homelessness. Our housing programs are our main, we have a lot of different housing programs. Just to start with, we have a culturally specific homeless prevention program that also includes housing for Black youth and young families in North Minneapolis. It's called the Northside Homeless Prevention Program. And that provides literally homeless prevention assistance and housing if they're already homeless. And then we have, I won't go through each one, but we have Periscope is a program, housing program specific for youth aging out of foster care so that they don't become homeless. The Suburban Rapid Rehousing Program is one that's actually out here, and so we provide up to 42 units of housing for youth, not just in Dakota County, but Scott, Carter, Anoka, and Washington. And what we do is we pay, we find a landlord that's willing to rent to the youth, and then we house them in a market rate apartment in the community, and then the youth pays 30% of the rent, the link pays the rest, and then we provide in-home support for that young person through mobile case management. I'm doing the short version. Okay. And then Project Live Out Loud is a culture-specific housing program for LGBTQ youth. I was approached by one of the youth, she identifies as trans, and she literally walked into my office about 8 years ago and said, why don't we have a gay youth housing program? And I'm like, that is so true, great idea, so help me figure this out. So we got a group of youth together, designed Project Live Out Loud, and it provides 30 units of housing for LGBTQ homeless youth. And we have, some of those are scattered site, and then we have a building that's specific for those youth too, so a whole building for that. Vintage Rapid Rehousing, we just call it vintage because it was our first one, but it's just like Suburban Rapid Rehousing, except for it's in Hennepin County. The Young Families Program is for it's for housing for young families. So youth, it could be a young mother, father, same-sex couple, opposite-sex couple, and their children. And so we provide housing and supportive services for them. Unfortunately, we also see way too many young families experiencing homelessness. And Housing First is for youth that are experiencing homelessness who also have a mental health diagnosis or a substance abuse diagnosis. And that's also scattered site in Hennepin County. And then Care and Housing is our housing program. It's also out here in the suburbs. And it's technically called permanent supportive housing because youth can stay as long as they need to in that program. And our last but not least, I will say our Linked Circle program. It's one of our newer programs. We opened about 2 years ago now. And it's a great program. We're partnering with our Circle of Discipline partners who operate a youth boxing gym in Minneapolis. And we've partnered a lot over the years. They were in South Minneapolis, we're in North, so we always call it like a North-South side collaboration. That doesn't always happen in Minneapolis, it's very separate. But the Linked Circle program is great because we get referrals from Hennepin County Juvenile Probation of youth, and then we allow them, like, okay, what do you need help with? Shelter, housing, kind of give them this menu of options between the Link and Circle of Discipline, and they can choose, and then they can also take boxing classes in the gym, as well as other athletic classes, so it's a really great one. And I think that's it for this. I should say the total, we have 273 units of housing at the Link, and 26 shelter beds, so it's busy. It's great, but it's very busy. It's grown. Our founders are always impressed. Jim and Oscar. The last division I'll talk a little bit about is our Safe Harbor division. And so in 2011, I won't go too much into it, but one of the very frustrating things of working in this field was that when we worked with youth who are victims of sexual exploitation or trafficking, if they happened to be found by law enforcement back in the day, they would get arrested and charged as a teenage prostitute and put into the juvenile detention center, even though they were getting bought and sold by a trafficker, right, for their profit. And that was extremely frustrating to myself and a lot of us, as well as the young victims. And there was youth that I worked with that literally would get arrested, put into the juvenile detention center at 14 or 15, so they're not even the age of consent. And then they were re-released to their traffickers' people that would show up pose as family members or whatever to pick them up, and they would go right back into the trafficking situation. So thankfully, a lot of us, including myself and a lot of people from the link and youth from the link that had been trafficked, advocated with some other community partners as well to pass a law called the Safe Harbor Law. So now prostitution offenses are decriminalized for anyone under the age of 18, and we're trying to increase that age, right, as we go. It's called Safe Harbor for all, but for all ages, but right now it's at least up to 18, so it's a huge change. And that happened on July 19th, 2011. Not that I remember the date or anything, but it was pretty exciting. But because of that, because we weren't putting these victims in juvenile detention anymore, we had to create a new response statewide. And so thankfully, I had the good fortune of being selected as a Bush Fellowship. So for 2 years, I got to work with trafficked youth and go visit other states that had passed safe harbor laws already and brought back a lot of information. And again, relied on the experts, which were trafficked youth, to kind of help design our safe harbor response. And then, very exciting, the link was selected to do a lot of that response. And so now we have specialized street outreach for youth who have been trafficked. We have what's called a Safe Harbor Regional Navigator. This is what happens when I think of names. You think of cool names like C.O.R.E. and Power. I'm like, Safe Harbor Regional Navigator, but I know, it's terrible. But what that means is like each part of the state is divided up because trafficking looks different in North Minneapolis than it does in Bemidji, or in the suburbs. And so we split it up, and so the link is the West Metro Regional Navigator. And what that means is we can take crisis calls for youth at any time. And then we help provide crisis intervention for that trafficking victim, make sure they get into safe places, and a lot of time, and also just supporting a lot of different people. So sometimes youth call themselves, sometimes we work a lot with the BCA Trafficking Task Force, so we'll kind of post up in hotels or different places when they're doing stings, and then when the victims are recovered by law enforcement, they'll come right over to us instead of being arrested anymore, so it's really great. And then we have 2 shelters under this division. One's called Dignity House, and technically this one's for runaway and homeless youth between the ages of 10 and 17, but oftentimes they are also sexually exploited. And then we have our Passageway shelter, which actually is for youth that have, as confirmed, sex trafficking victims between the ages of 12 and 17, and they can be any gender, because unfortunately every gender can be sex trafficked. And then we also have Passageway's housing program, which provides housing for 16 to 24-year-old trafficking victims, and they also can be parenting with children. And then we have a survivor mentor program, an aftercare program, which is really great because we know relapse back into the life can happen. And I'm gonna try to speed up the next slides because I want to make sure we get to the tour, which is the good part. But I'll give you a little video of the link here, if I can get the link to play. The link's mission is to overcome the impacts of poverty and social injustice for youth and young families. However, our bigger mission and goal is to truly work ourselves out of existence, to be a leader of the movements to end youth homelessness, sex trafficking, and reforming our juvenile justice / non-justice system to the point where the link is no longer needed in our community. That's the end goal. Right now, there are 4,872 unaccompanied, meaning these are youth out there by themselves, experiencing homelessness. We have been able to reduce that number. It used to be 6,000 a night, and we will keep going until it gets to 0.
I'm really proud of the fact that we offer the full continuum of services for youth experiencing homelessness. Wherever young people are at in their experience of homelessness, we have programming that can support them along the way.
The link is very supportive. This environment is very dope. The link is for the youth. There's no other way to word it. Anything they do is around the youth. Like, it's for the youth, sometimes maybe even by the youth. But it's something that's youth related. The link is always going to be one of the people that's at the front line.
Our founders, Jim Marshall and Oscar Reed, recognized, 30-some years ago, that North Minneapolis is such a special place, but that there was a lot of young people, mostly who identified as Black, that were really struggling because they're under-supported
I was sleeping in my car and I was putting on the heat, taking it off, turning it on, taking it off, and then I blew the heater out. And I ended up sleeping in my car while it was -7. The inside of my car was freezing with ice. I would sleep on people's couches, but you can tell when your stay is being overbooked for a while. So, then I went back to sleeping in my car because, it's, at least I'm in my own space. This is my space, so nobody can put me out of it. Then my car stopped working. I talked to a lady, she helped me put in a housing referral. And then not even a week later, the Link were the first people to accept it. So immediately I got happy right away.
One of my favorite things about the Link is our co-leadership structure. We're a youth and adult-led organization.
We want all of our efforts to be led by our young folks. We know that they are the experts in this work. Because of that, we are leaders in our community, and I think it is what really sets us apart.
I spoke at the Capitol on the youth advocacy bill, and that was my first time public speaking. I'm a very introverted person, like this is new for me, so this is not something I would typically do, but because the Link has helped me move forward in my life so much, I want to help them as much as I can when I can.
We have some really smart and talented young people that we get the chance to know and build relationships with, and they're change makers. They are passionate about making things better, changing systems, taking care of their peers and their community.
These youth have incredible challenges. Even with these challenges, they are fierce survivors. They are fierce thrivers, and all they need is some support, getting their basic needs met, a safe place to live, people that are going to believe in them and empower them to accomplish the great goals that they have for themselves. And I know this because I see it. I get to see it every day, and it never gets old. Mission is to overcome the impact. Okay, so I'll just say one more quick thing, and then we'll turn it over to the tour. I just want to be respectful of everybody's time, but thank you so much. I thought showing a video since we don't have young people actually here today, with Cavante, you can always say it better than anyone, but that's what it truly is like for young people that are experiencing homelessness. I oftentimes say, even when my mom and dad aren't in the room, that I was really lucky and blessed to happen to be born into the circumstances I was. But what we find at the Link is that, and everywhere, right, is that no child gets to decide who they're born to, the circumstances they're born into. So it's really important when working with youth experiencing homelessness to be non-judgmental and trauma-informed, because they've been through so much. We see youth that have been born in jail cells to people struggling with addiction, and oftentimes it's intergenerational, and they were too, right? And so it's just no young person gets to choose these circumstances, but what we try to really do is lift them up, like we said. We try to empower, support them, and lift them up so that they do get to a point where they feel valued, they've had the chance to heal, and then now they can accomplish the things they really want to work on. But just to let you know what the definition of homeless youth is it's a person, and we got to write this law, and that was the one, Cavante, it's called the Homeless Youth Act. So we wrote the definition, so that's how it works, right? So it's a person aged 24 or younger who is unaccompanied by a parent or a guardian and is without shelter or where appropriate care and supervision are available, or whose parent or legal guardian is unable or unwilling to provide shelter, care, or who lacks a fixed, regular, adequate residence. And so with that, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I want to make sure I give you all enough time. Laura, I can't say enough good things about Lucas, Laura, Michelle, and Tiana. I'm so thankful to have such an amazing team. So what's exciting is now we can show you part of the Link. So we're really happy to say the Drop-In Center C.O.R.E. is housed out of this building. And so I'm going to turn it over to Laura now to give the tour. Does that sound good? Laura